to the Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast with your hosts, Reese Downing and Jacob Workman.
What is up, everyone? Another Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NCAA edition. It is finally time to pick some games. Week 0 is here. There's only 4 of them. They're going to be awesome. That's all that matters. Joining, as always, co-host Reese Downing. Reese, we are finally going to pick some games after what feels like 6 years of previews. How do you feel that we're finally here?
As much as I love doing these previews, man, I'm ready to start picking some football games, both NFL and college. We've got one more division preview episode that's upcoming tonight for the NFC West, and then I think we have one more show after that, and then it's time to start picking some football games there too. So yeah, I'm ready to start picking some games.
Yeah, looking forward to the NFC West preview and finishing off all these previews because, my God, picking games is so much more fun than just talking about the past. It's there's a lot of things that go into the games weekly that are much more entertaining than all of this. But
it's a shitload of work too, man. I mean, I love doing it, but it is a lot of work to get these preview shows all pulled together. So yeah, ready to pick some games for sure.
It is. And unfortunately, for those of you that didn't really listen last year when we made our picks weekly, so our format normally is we pick the top 25 every game against the spread. Then we'll also do a little, what we call the Muncie 6-pack, just a little town where we're from. The 6-pack is kind of a running joke because there's 7 games. If anyone didn't even catch on to that last year, I think Carter did. But so next, I mean, we only got 4 games this week, but next week, I think I counted, we're good on 29 games. So
let's go.
We're hitting it off pretty quick next week. And there's some big games next week. We got A&M, Notre Dame, I believe, Fresno State, Michigan, of course. That's going to be a big one. But no, it's Florida, Miami's next weekend. So that's a win total winner already, we said. So we're just ready for pick games and get everything going. We are going to run through some news that's been released just over these last few days. A lot of starting quarterbacks are starting to be named, and actually a few big injuries have came out. So let's start. So this one pertains to me a lot. If you listen to our college football playoff preview, Boise State was actually my group of 5 team that I had making the playoffs. And I talked a lot about Malachi Nelson being the quarterback to transfer from USC. That's not the case. Maddox Madsen, what a name that is he's going to lead the team onto the Smurf turf. He's been announced the starter. It's 2 years in a row he beat out what most people assumed was going to be the starter. Last year he beat out now Arkansas quarterback Taylon Green. On top of that, we talked a little bit about Ohio State's quarterback controversy. We pretty much assumed the whole time it was going to be Will Howard, and it is. He was named the starter. Texas transfer Malik Murphy has been named the starter at Duke. USC named Miller Moss their starting quarterback, which he had a pretty good bowl game. I think they played Louisville in the bowl game last year, and he had a good showing because Caleb wasn't playing. Really no surprise here. The new leader of the Dairy Raid is Miami transfer quarterback Tyler Van Dyke. I'll be really interested to see what he can do in a new location because he was awful in Miami after getting quite a bit of hype. Cincinnati's expected to name Brandon Sorsby the new starting quarterback. He did start 7 games for IU last year. Arizona State named Michigan State transfer Sam Leavitt starting quarterback over Jeff Sims, which Jeff Sims at one time was a pretty big recruit. He was a Florida State commit. Ended up leaving Florida, or he never actually enrolled at Florida State. He went to Georgia Tech, then left Georgia Tech to go to Nebraska. And now he's in his 3rd location at Arizona State. He's not even playing there, so might be the end of his run. Nevada has announced, we actually are going to talk about this game a little bit. They're starting quarterback Brendan Lewis this week. Chubba Purdy, another former Florida State guy, which he actually did play for Florida State for a little bit. And then he did go to Nebraska also. He hurt his shoulder in practice, so he's not going to be playing this week. A little local story for some of our guys that listen from Indiana. San Diego State has named true freshman quarterback from Cathedral High School in Indianapolis, Danny O'Neill. He's going to be the starting quarterback for San Diego State. South Carolina has named Lenora Sellers their starting quarterback. One of our saviors from last year for Florida State who kept us undefeated. He did transfer to Southern Miss, Tate Rodemaker. He's been named the starting quarterback there. A few injuries here, and some of these are interesting. SMU running back Kamar Wheaton is out for the season after knee surgery. This next one is huge. It just came out today. Rutgers star linebacker Muhammad Torrey is out for the season after tearing an ACL. If you listen to the Big Ten preview, we were both pretty high on Rutgers. They were actually one of my favorite win totals of the season because of how physical they were. Their schedule's favorable. Their defense is very good, bringing a lot of people back. And They unfortunately lost the best player on their defense for the season. Georgia Tech, as Florida State will play this weekend, tight end Brett Seether is going to miss the entire season after a knee injury. I did read a little bit just to see if this guy was important since we're playing them. A lot of Georgia Tech fans are not happy about this. Apparently, he's kind of a big deal, so it's unfortunate for them, but might benefit us in Dublin. Kent State named redshirt sophomore Devin Cargman the starter for their opener at Pitt. He has started a game in each of the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, so a lot to digest there. The injuries are maybe coming at an inopportune time because some of the guys that listen to this podcast and us are in a college football fantasy draft right now, and I may have heard a name or two that I think are already off the board. So hopefully that isn't hitting you or I. Boise State nod to Matson is maybe a little surprising, but the kid clearly has favor with both the coaches in the locker room, so it could be a team synergy thing.
Yeah.
I like it. Ohio State naming Howard the starter isn't too surprising for me. I know there were some questions about whether he'd get the starting role or not, but Ryan Day talked about how he's really been commanding the huddle, and he's actually improved a little bit more with his legs. So it sounds like he's becoming a little bit more of a dual threat quarterback. So that could become fun to watch. Malik Murphy will be interesting to see in that Duke system for sure, and obviously excited to see a Hoosier true freshman to get the start for the Aztecs. So some fun stuff going on right now.
Yeah, a few more injuries to note, and this is just terrible luck for Texas. They lost 2 running backs to injury already for the whole season, C.J. Baxter and Christian Clark, which those were starting running backs. And to follow that up, I don't know what's going on in Texas, but Texas A&M lost their starting running back, Reuben Owens. He suffered a foot injury that will make him miss the regular season. Coach Elko did say that there's a chance that if they make the playoff, he could return, though, for the playoffs. IU right guard Nick Kidwell, who followed head coach Kurt Signetti from JMU, where he started 34 games, he's going to miss the entire season with a knee injury, which that's got to be a crushing blow for him. We mentioned a few weeks ago Jim Harbaugh was going to be the honorary captain for the Fresno State game for Michigan. That is no longer going to be the case. Harbaugh has stated that he wanted to stay in the foxhole with the Chargers instead of taking a deep, long bow.
Yeah, not too surprising for me there. It's probably best for both Harbaugh and Michigan to not draw even more attention to the program than what they already have at the moment. So it's not a surprising announcement.
Yeah, I agree. I love Harbaugh's hatred of the NCAA and just the pure fuck you he likes to give to everyone. But yeah, it's probably a wise decision to just, especially, I mean, it's the Chargers. He's a brand new head coach, and I think there's bigger fish to fry with that going on.
Yeah, it's not like he's exactly in an easy division. So
yeah, right. And this is something that we talked about a lot last year, and I said, I don't know how they do it, but I feel like we need injury reports in college football because we talked about Cam Rising every single week. We had no idea what the hell was happening until like week 10. Rumors are starting to come out that the SEC might be moving towards mandatory injury reports, and it even says as early as this season. Now, I know we're pushing the deadline. The season's about to start, but this would be a huge story if this were to come true.
Yeah, I mean, the Big Ten's already done it, right? So I feel like this isn't too terribly surprising. I guess really it's what more surprising is that they're thinking of doing it this close to the season as opposed to introducing it well ahead of time. But I think when we talked about this last year, we talked about how this is worse than what you get with the NHL. With the NHL, it's just upper body or lower body injury. And I know that they say that they do that to protect the players, but this is also a contact sport. So it's not really that much different. So I think it's necessary. Obviously, I think with the amount of money that's involved on the betting side of the equation that this is coming, but
yeah,
I'll be surprised if this isn't where most, if not all of these massive conferences are headed, where these mandatory injury reports become something that are just SOP.
Yeah. And I feel this is strictly a gambling thing. I mean, that's what I've always bitched out at for the reason. Especially if you get into now I know the bowl games are a little different, but that's why we've always said betting on a bowl game is, unless it's a playoff game, is nearly impossible because they could say they're all playing and you get out there and literally no one plays. So it would be very nice especially with the increase in gambling in America when it comes to sports betting and the more, I guess, availability per se. I think they're going to have to keep getting more and more open about what's really going on with these teams. Another update on some NIL deals. Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, Jackson Dart, Noah Fafita, and Tetaroa McMillan, last two are Arizona guys. They all signed NIL deals with private jet companies. How you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, from what I read for Fafita and McMillan anyway, this includes a specific number of travel hours for both personal and team
Yeah.
use. So that'll be interesting to see how that gets used. Dart and Ewers are with the same brand, Nicholas Air. Beck is with Airstar, I think is the name of the company. So it's interesting that these private jet companies are starting to compete. I think this probably is potentially kind of a waterfall effect, right? Where whoever the first one was that got in, Nicholas Air, I think is what it was, then Airstar followed suit to try to compete with them. And now it's just kind of a back and forth thing. I'm all for it, man. It's crazy how much money these NIL deals are bringing for the players, but
Yeah.
cash in, man. The universities do it. You're putting your body on the line. I have no problem with these kids making this kind of money. I just hope that they have the financial leadership resources in front of them to make sure that they don't screw it all up, because it's a ton of money. So
True. And I'm actually happy to see the Arizona boys getting in on this deal. I mean, you got Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, and Jackson Dart. Those are huge names in college football. Everyone knows who they are.
Yeah.
Not everyone knows the Arizona boys. So I do like that. I'm glad they're getting thrown into this.
Feed is a stud, man. He may be up there by the end of the year.
Yeah, they're going to be a fun team. I mean, I think they literally this first year in the Big 12, and they're going to be in contention. That Big 12 is go listen to the Big 12 preview. We talked about it. It's a wild conference. Anyone can do anything in that conference.
Yeah.
This next one, if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see a little photo down at the bottom that looks crazy as hell. And this is another thing. What the hell is the Colorado School of Mines? First of all. But they did release some very interesting headshots. So if you go to our Twitter page, we've actually reposted all of them. But if you're watching on YouTube, you can see 3 of them right now. And I don't know what the hell's going on here. And Reese, do you know what the hell the Colorado School of Mines is?
Yeah, so I guess this isn't the first time that they've done this, because when I first started digging into this a little bit deeper, I found some photos from 2023. I don't know how far back it goes, but I think this is becoming a bit of a tradition. From the school name standpoint, it's in Colorado, gold mining, things like that. I thought for sure that that's just where this came from. No, their website very specifically states that they remain a place dedicated to hands-on practice, thus the school portion of this, and are committed to digging deep, the mining portion of this, for answers to the world's pressing challenges. So this has nothing to do with mining. This has everything to do with hands-on practice and digging deep for answers. So
that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
That's an interesting approach, but needless to say, it's entertaining to see what their team photos look like. So
I'm going to promise at some point this season, I'm finding one of their games, and it's going to be in the Muncie 6-pack. We're going to pick one of their games at some point this season. I don't know what the hell they even are. They're probably I don't know if they're even FCS. They might be. Hell, I don't know what they are, but we'll find them, and we're going to pick one of their games.
I don't know. I'm taking them in the over, though. That's all I know.
I mean, I can't get over the guy on the far right of the picture. He's really creepy.
He's not even if you look at the main photo that's on our Twitter repost, like that guy is
serious.
It's quality entertainment. Yeah.
So speaking of people that don't look like themselves, Connor Stallions, he's actually became the defensive coordinator at Mumford High School in Detroit, which is an interesting twist to the whole situation with him. I'm sure he's going to be great at stealing other high school signs also. Any thoughts on Connor Stallions becoming the defensive coordinator?
Well, I mean, first of all, well done on the transition. That was beautiful. You landed that perfectly. That was Simone Biles-esque. Yeah, from what I hear, he's also going to be teaching a class in Sign Stealing 101. It's college credit. It's only going to apply to the University of Michigan, maybe Central Michigan as well. Honestly, though, I looked this team up. They are 2-17 in the last 2 years and have been shut out 9 times. So cheating is probably encouraged at this point for Mumford. So yeah, I don't even know if this is a paid position. It's a DC role at a high school.
Yeah, I'll make a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's not raking in the dollars by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, it's interesting. What's going to be the icing on the cake for me is he moves through this college system and then somehow he becomes the head coach for Central Michigan. And like in his
awesome.
first press conference, he's like, I'm happy to be back. And,
that would be awesome. He should wear the disguise to the press conference. That'd be even better.
100%.
So some news came out today. This one I find just odd as hell, but Oklahoma State has added QR codes to their helmets so people can donate to the Pokes NIL Collective. My thought is, how many people are going to be out trying to scan a helmet while watching the game? Because they did specifically say in the release that it was for people while watching on TV. That the odds of you scanning a little code on the back of a helmet while a game is on TV is going to be very difficult. I'll tell you that.
It's going to be beyond difficult. It's going to be non-existent. For those who know me, I'm in the marketing realm, and QR codes are familiar to me. And putting it on the screen's one thing. Putting it on a football helmet that's moving down the field, or even standing in a huddle, I don't know what the thought process is on this. I can see one of those close-ups like in the middle of the game where they show like the helmet next to the football or something, but. Yeah, I don't think this was well thought out.
Yeah, I don't either. And then the last note we have, a group of 5 schools are exploring a postseason invitational for teams who do not make the college football playoff. What are your thoughts on that?
I love this idea. Both more football, number one, and the fact that this would be an insanely fun tournament to watch and bet on, because it's going to be a crapshoot every year. Like I'm hesitant to say that I would almost be as, if not more, excited to watch this invitational with these group of 5 teams, because there's going to be so much more unpredictability. I love this. I really, really hope that they get this pushed through.
Yeah, I love the idea of it too. There's obviously a few things that need worked out. One, I think we've got to have a huge payout to the winning team, or no one's going to give a damn. Like, there's going to be guys that just won't play, which I think would really suck and kind of ruin this. I think if there's enough incentive for the winning team, though, or maybe even depending on how many teams they're planning on invite, like pay per round, maybe increase the money per each round you go. Just because a lot of these guys, a group of 5 schools, a lot of them aren't getting huge NIL deals anyway. So that could be a way for them to increase money, kind of like the TBT, like the basketball tournament, or the TST, the soccer tournament, like what they're doing with that. But the NCAA is still over this, so that's going to be one of the problems. But I do think that in theory, it's awesome. It's just figuring out how to make it work without guys not sitting out still. But I do think if they could figure out the money situation, and that's really all it would take, would be to get people to play. But yeah, I would be watching this every second of it. I would love it.
Yeah.
We've hit the time. It's time to pick our first game of the year.
Let's go.
And
kicking it off.
Couldn't be any better. Number 10, Florida State is an 11.5 point favorite as they play Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland. Over/under is 55.5. This game is at noon on ESPN. So we've got a week. Oh, sorry. The Noles do lead the all-time series 15, 11, and 1. And the last time they played was in 2022 when the Noles won 41-16. We got a week 1 or week 0, technically, conference game in a different country. I'm pretty sure that's just how everyone wants to start the season. Florida State won the ACC last year, finishing the regular season 12-0 and then beating Louisville in the conference championship game. The Noles' lone loss last year was in the Orange Bowl to Georgia. Georgia Tech, or as the man from Virginia says, Ja-Tech, finished 4th in the ACC, finishing the regular season at 6-6 and won their matchup with UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl. Reese, first pick of the year, start us off. What do you got?
Yeah, so we talked about this a few times on both of these teams, most notably huge upswing in offensive performance for the Yellow Jackets in just 1 year from 22 to 23. This is going to be an interesting one, being in Dublin. It's 5 hours ahead of where the Noles typically play. So with it being a noon game, still 5 p.m. I don't know. Do you know how soon they're going to be traveling to Ireland? Are they going to be like, I assume they're already there, right?
The Noles got to Ireland yesterday, Monday.
Okay. So they're getting acclimated. I don't think there shouldn't be too much of a jet lag situation there. But all of that said, I don't think this is a good week 1 game for either one of these teams. There's just a lot of crapshoot. I think the Noles are getting the W here, but with this odd neutral site, the newfound offensive prowess with Georgia Tech, I think they keep it within 10. So I'm going to take the Yellow Jackets plus the 11.5, but I do think the Noles win this one.
Yeah. So my thought on this one, I do like what Georgia Tech's doing. The only, they proved at the end of last year that, they gave Georgia a hell of a game at the end of the year. Like they're definitely on the rise. I just think there's a few things to watch for here. Obviously, Florida State, the main one is going to be DJ. We've got to see what he does. Can he come in and just immediately roll in this offense and fit in with what we need to do? We got transfer running backs in. We got new receivers. So, I mean, there is turnover. There are changes, but the guys we're loading are, I mean, they're pretty good. Defensively is where I think the game is over. Our defense is ridiculous. With Marvin Jones Jr. going on the opposite side, I mean, I don't know. Marvin Jones Jr., Patrick Payton, and Josh Farmer as a D-line. Good luck to the Georgia Tech offensive line to stop that. And then on the back end, I love Oz. Oz is one of my favorite corners, probably my favorite corner at Florida State since Jalen Ramsey. I love Oz. So, I mean, we're talking 3 potential first-round picks there, maybe even 4. The defense is the difference in the game for me. I think we can hold Haynes King in check. I will take Florida State to cover the 11.5 in this one. Number 4 in the FCS, Montana State is an 11.5 point favorite on the road at New Mexico. Over under is 54.5. This game's at 4 p.m. on the One for Fun, Fox Sports 1. Montana State finished 8-4 last year, losing in the FCS playoffs to North Dakota State 35-34. New Mexico finished the 2023 season 4-8. New Mexico will be led by a new head coach, Bronco Mendenhall, to face a very loaded Montana State team looking for their first win over an FBS team since 2006 when they beat Colorado. Reese, who do you have in this one?
Yeah, like you just said, FCS, Montana State, they're coming in as favorites here. Historically, they have not played well against FBS schools. New Mexico, I think, between the new head coach and some of the things that they did in the transfer portal, especially to address some of those defensive inefficiencies, I like the plus 11.5. So I'm going to take the Lobos here plus the 11.5.
Yeah, for my first one of the year here, I like New Mexico, and I think this is where we might have a money line play. I think New Mexico might still win this game outright. Montana State, historically, has not played well against when they've moved up to the FBS teams. New Mexico, now they were ass, but Bronco Mendenhall is a very, very physical coach, and he will come in and he will change things. They did bring in some pretty big transfers also. And I think New Mexico's talent is still going to be better. I mean, Montana State's probably the better overall team, but I think New Mexico has the players and the talent. I think they can come out in week 1 and maybe I still think they can maybe even get the upset win and just win the game outright. SMU is a 25.5 point favorite on the road at Nevada, over under 56.5. We got 8 p.m. on the CBS Sports Network. SMU comes over to the ACC, bringing the AAC championship with them after finishing 9-0 in the AAC last year and beating Tulane in the conference championship game 26-14. Nevada was pretty terrible last year, finishing 2-10 and losing their last 4 games. Nevada brings in a new head coach, Jeff Choate. He has been the co-defensive coordinator at Texas for the last 2 years.
Yeah, Horse Team comes into the year with some pretty high expectations in its first year in the ACC. Preston Stone's returning under center. They've got a top 15 defense and yards per game allowed. Nevada looks like they could be in for a rough year despite the new head coach. They struggle to cover the spread. I'm taking SMU here minus the 25.5.
Yeah, I'm on SMU too. I think SMU is going to kill them. The one thing that I'm actually interested in is that 56.5 over under. I think SMU might score 56 themselves. Maybe that's where they're playing it. Maybe they think SMU is going to only get to like 50. But yeah, I like SMU a lot in this one. And as we talked about in the ACC preview, I think SMU is going to be a team we need to watch out for this year. Delaware State is at Hawaii. Hawaii's a 39.5 point favorite. Over under is 57.5. And if there's ever a team you can tell who they are by what time they play, it is Hawaii. 11:59 p.m. kickoff is always the given. FCS Delaware State was god-awful last year, going 1-10 with their lone victory being Virginia Lynchburg. Hawaii finished 2023 5-8, but they did win 3 of their last 4. Some little news that came out today, Delaware State did miss their 10.5-hour flight to Hawaii because of a bus issue on the way to the JFK airport. So that's a great way to start your trip. And one thing I want to throw into this is, who the hell is running Delaware State's athletic program? If I was the athletic director and they were that ass, why are they getting rewarded with a trip to Hawaii to start the season? I don't know. This is setting this team up for failure. They're never going to win anything. I'm taking Hawaii minus 39.5. Reese, what do you got?
I'm right there with you. You talked about all the notes that I have here. Rainbow Warriors winning 3 of the last 4. Delaware State coming off a 1-10 season with their only win against a D2 school. Delaware State's offensive struggles are going to be shown here. I'm taking Hawaii minus the 39.5 as well.
All right. So it wasn't much, but we did wrap up our 4 picks there. It is time to close like we close every single week with our lock of the week. Reese, kick us off.
My lock of the week this week is going to be SMU over Nevada. It says 27.5 here, should be 25.5. This is just a more confident pick for me. 27.5 is where this was at a couple days ago. It's actually gone back down to 25.5, which is giving me 2 extra points. I think the horse team is poised for a big year. I think they kicked that off with a big win against the Wolfpack. So lock me in on SMU minus the 25.5 over Nevada.
All right. For my first lock of the week, I'm staying with my guys. Florida State minus 11.5. Like I talked about, I think the defense is just too much. Until Georgia Tech, I need to see their offense prove to me that they're going to be able to do something against our offense. I think our offense is still going to be really good. Like I said, it's going to come down to DJ a lot, but our defense, I feel like, can probably win this game alone. So I am sticking with Florida State minus 11.5 as my lock of the week. So that is going to wrap up our week 0 picks. We will be back next week with week 1. As I mentioned earlier, I counted, I believe it's 29 games we'll be picking next week. So it'll be a little bit of a longer episode, obviously, a little more than 4 games. And we're starting to get into some big games next weekend even. So we're kicking it off, a lot of good ones. Reese, you got anything else for the week 0 preview?
No, we'll try to release some stuff on social media here within the next day or so that outlines what our picks were. I think we were pretty aligned across the board, except for the Florida State game. But we'll get that stuff shared as well as the locks for the week. And yeah, man, we're ready to get rolling here and start making some money.
Don't forget, check out that money line for New Mexico also. I'm not sure exactly what it is right now, but I think it's worth a check. And one thing I do like that they did at least is since we only got 4 games, I like that we're noon, 4, 8, and 11:59. I like that let's make sure we still have a whole day of football, even though we're a little skeptical, but we got a whole day at least. So
that's right.
It's only a 1 screen neater for this weekend. All right. So later tonight, we will be releasing the NFC West preview. So make sure you check that out also. And that will conclude all of our NFL previews. So go back and check out all of those. If you missed any of our episodes, last week we dropped our college football playoff predictions and actually went through our whole bracket. So you can go back and look and see who exactly we have in the tournament and then who's winning the tournament. We also released a best future bet episode a few weeks ago, which that is still in play. You could still bet those up to this weekend, more than likely. I guess some teams you could probably even get until next weekend still. So check that out also to get some last minute bets in. But that is it. We will return next Tuesday night for week 1. So for the captain on the other side of the screen, Reese Downing, I am Jacob Workman, and we will see you guys next week.
Cheers, guys.